The sleek vessel of the Galactic Hegemony slipped into orbit around the blue planet, its engines barely a whisper against the void of space. Admiral Day stood at the observation deck, his tall frame silhouetted against the stars as he gazed down at Earth. "What do we know about this world?" he asked, his voice calm and measured. Science Officer June approached with a tablet, her uniform crisp and her movements precise. "It's a water-rich planet, sir. The dominant species calls themselves humans. They've achieved industrial technology and basic space exploration, but nothing beyond their own moon." Day nodded slowly. "Resources?" "Abundant," June replied, swiping through charts on her screen. "Water, minerals, biological diversity. The planet would make an excellent addition to our collection points." The Admiral turned away from the window. "And these humans? Will they pose problems?" June smiled slightly. "Our initial assessment suggests they're no threat, Admiral. They spend most of their energy fighting among themselves. Their weapons are primitive compared to ours. They haven't even unified their planet under a single government." "Interesting," Day murmured. "Show me more about them." The main screen lit up with images of Earth cities, human activities, and cultural artifacts. Day watched with growing curiosity as scenes of human life played across the display. They seemed so small, so fragile compared to his own people. "They appear quite adaptable," noted Security Chief Tay, who had joined them silently. "But the reports confirm they're mostly harmless. Their most advanced weapons couldn't penetrate our basic shields." Day nodded. "Prepare a diplomatic team. The standard approach should work well here. We'll convince them of our friendly intentions while we study their world more closely." "Yes, Admiral," Tay said with a slight bow before departing. June remained, her eyes fixed on a particular image of humans gathering in what appeared to be a celebration. "There is one thing that stands out in our research, sir. Their rate of technological development is unusual." "How so?" Day asked, turning to face her. "Most species progress through technological stages at predictable rates. Humans have accelerated remarkably in just the last few hundred years. From simple tools to spaceflight in a blink of cosmic time." Day waved his hand dismissively. "Many young species show bursts of development before stabilizing. It's nothing concerning." "Of course, Admiral," June said, though her expression remained thoughtful. Later that day, Day met with his command staff to finalize the contact protocol. The ship's meeting room hummed with quiet conversations as officers reviewed their roles in the upcoming mission. "We will follow standard procedure," Day announced. "First contact will be made with their Global Leadership Council. We'll demonstrate our technological superiority in a non-threatening manner. Past experience suggests this is sufficient to establish our dominance without conflict." Resource Officer Miho raised his hand. "Our surveys indicate rich deposits of rare minerals in their northern continents. How soon can extraction begin?" "Patience," Day replied. "We must follow protocol. First, we establish diplomatic relations. Then we negotiate resource agreements that appear beneficial to both parties." The officers nodded in understanding. This approach had worked countless times before on developing worlds. No primitive species had ever posed a serious challenge to the hegemony's methods. As the meeting concluded, Officer June approached Day privately. "Admiral, I've been reviewing their communication networks. They have thousands of stories about alien invasions and planetary conquest." "Fiction," Day said with a small laugh. "Many species imagine threats from the stars before they encounter real ones." "Yes, but these humans seem unusually prepared, at least mentally, for the concept of hostile aliens. They constantly imagine scenarios where they defeat technologically superior invaders." Day placed a reassuring hand on June's shoulder. "Stories won't save them from reality, officer. Prepare the contact team. We make our appearance tomorrow at their United Nations facility." As June left, Day returned to the observation window. The planet turned slowly below, beautiful and seemingly peaceful. Soon it would be just another acquisition for the hegemony, its resources flowing outward to fuel their expansion. The humans would adapt to their new role in the galaxy, as all such species eventually did. What Day couldn't see from his lofty vantage point were the Earth's defense installations already tracking his ship, or the emergency meetings taking place in underground bunkers where military leaders discussed the arrival of the alien vessel. He couldn't see the centuries of human preparation for this very moment, hidden carefully beneath a veneer of disorganized civilization. The humans indeed seemed harmless. For now. The Grand Hall of the United Nations fell silent as the alien delegation entered. Representative Han led the group, his silver-blue skin catching the light as he moved with perfect posture toward the human representatives. Behind him walked Science Officer June and 4 other members of the hegemony, their tall frames towering over the human security personnel. President Minji stood to greet them, her face calm despite the historic moment. Cameras flashed around them, capturing the first official meeting between humanity and alien life. "Welcome to Earth," Minji said, extending her hand in the greeting gesture the aliens had studied from human broadcasts. Han mirrored the gesture perfectly. "We thank you for your hospitality. The Galactic Hegemony is pleased to establish relations with your world." The touch of their hands, one human, one alien, appeared friendly, but both were studying the other carefully. Han noted the steadiness in Minji's gaze, while she observed the slight tension in his posture. Later, as they sat at the large round table, Han presented beautifully crafted images of the hegemony's 27 worlds. "Our civilization spans 3 star systems," he explained. "We have brought peace and prosperity to many developing worlds." General Quan, sitting beside Minji, leaned forward. "And what brings you to Earth specifically? Surely there are many worlds between yours and ours." "Exploration," Han replied smoothly. "And the opportunity for cultural exchange. Your world has unique qualities we find fascinating." "Such as?" asked Quan. "Your biological diversity. Your atmospheric composition. Your cultural productions." Han gestured elegantly. "And of course, your mineral resources are quite interesting." A barely noticeable glance passed between Minji and Quan. "We would be pleased to discuss resource exchanges," Minji said. "After we've established proper diplomatic ties." The meeting continued with practiced cordiality. The aliens presented gifts of advanced materials and simple medical technology. The humans offered art, music, and samples of Earth's cuisine. To all appearances, the first contact was proceeding perfectly. After the formal meeting, Han invited the human delegation to tour their ship, now landed in a field outside the city. As they walked through the gleaming corridors, Science Officer June explained the basics of their propulsion system. "You travel faster than light?" asked Dr. Lee, the human science advisor. "Of course," June replied with a subtle smile. "Your Einstein was close with his theories, but missed certain quantum possibilities." Dr. Lee nodded, asking simple questions that made the aliens believe he barely grasped their technology. But his eyes missed nothing, and his memory was recording every detail. In another section of the ship, Han showed Minji and Quan the agricultural modules. "We can help improve your food production systems," he offered. "Your farming methods are quite traditional." "We managed to feed most of our people," Minji said. "But we're always open to improvements." "Of course," Han replied. "The hegemony believes in lifting all civilizations to their full potential." "How generous," Quan remarked. "And what does the hegemony receive in return?" Han's smile didn't waver. "Partnership. Community. And yes, occasionally resources that developing worlds can spare but are valuable to our continued expansion." Back on their ship that evening, the alien delegation discussed their impressions. "They seem appropriately impressed by our technology," Han noted. The usual response from a pre-FTL civilization. Security Chief Tay disagreed. Their military representative asked very specific questions about our defensive capabilities. Not the questions of someone merely curious. Paranoia, Han dismissed. All isolated species are suspicious of newcomers. Officer June reviewed her notes. "I noticed their scientists were extremely interested in our engine room." That Dr. Lee asked basic questions but was observing advanced components. Do you think they understand what they were seeing? Han asked. No, June said after a moment. But they were memorizing everything with unusual precision. Meanwhile, in a secure underground facility, the human delegation was comparing notes. Their technology is approximately where we estimated, Dr. Lee said, sketching quickly. Their shield frequencies operate in the range we predicted. Our current phase weapons should penetrate them with some modifications. And their intentions? Minji asked. General Kwan's face was grim. Classic resource colonization approach. They see us as a developing world to be exploited. Han mentioned resources that developing worlds can spare. We've seen that pattern in our own history. Minji nodded. Continue the diplomatic approach. Show appropriate amazement at their technology. Give nothing away. How long until they realize we're not as harmless as we appear? Asked an aide. As long as possible, Minji replied. Our greatest advantage is that they underestimate us. Tomorrow, we'll suggest a cultural exchange program and request permission to send observers to their ship. Let's learn everything we can while they still think we're simple primitives. As night fell, both sides prepared for the next day's discussions, each believing they understood the other's true nature. Only one of them was right. 3 weeks into the diplomatic mission, Science Officer June couldn't shake her growing unease. She walked briskly through the corridor of the Hegemony flagship, her mind troubled by patterns she had noticed in human behavior. Admiral, may I speak with you? She asked, entering Day's private quarters after receiving permission. Admiral Day looked up from his display. Of course. Have you completed the resource survey? Yes, but that's not why I'm here. June placed her tablet on his desk. I've been analyzing human historical records. There's something concerning about them. Day raised an eyebrow. The primitive species? What could possibly be concerning? June activated her tablet, showing images of human warfare through the ages. Look at their technological progression. From simple spears to nuclear weapons in less than 10,000 years. The last 200 years show exponential growth. Many species experience growth spurts, Day said dismissively. Not like this. June swiped to another screen. And there's something else. I've been monitoring their global network, what they call the Internet. They're sharing information about us. Detailed information. She displayed intercepted communications showing surprisingly accurate descriptions of hegemony technology. This is from a human scientist who toured our ship just once, she explained. The level of detail suggests a memory capacity we didn't account for. Day's expression darkened. Have you shared this with Security Chief Tay? Yes. He's increased surveillance, but... June hesitated. The humans seem to be aware of our monitoring systems. They behave differently when they know they're being watched. At that moment, Tay himself entered the room, his usual composed demeanor visibly shaken. Admiral, we have a situation, he said, saluting quickly. One of our scout ships reported unusual activity at a human military installation before going silent. Silent? Day stood up. Explain. All communications ceased approximately 20 minutes ago. The ship was observing a facility in what they call Nevada. We detected unusual energy readings before losing contact. Admiral Day's face hardened. These primitives couldn't possibly disable one of our ships. That was my assumption as well, Tay replied. But we've been unable to re-establish contact. I've dispatched 2 more scouts to investigate. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Nevada desert, a team of human scientists surrounded the disabled Hegemony scout ship in a massive underground hangar. The vessel, no larger than a small airplane, had been captured in a precisely calibrated electromagnetic net. Dr. Lee circled the ship, his expression thoughtful. Their shields dropped exactly as predicted when we hit them with the phase-matched pulse. Brilliant work, everyone. General Kwan stood nearby, speaking quietly into a secure communication device. Inform the President we have confirmation. Their defensive systems match our projections. The aliens appeared genuinely surprised, noted a young technician. They had no idea we could affect their technology. Their mistake was letting us study their ships during the cultural exchanges, Dr. Lee said. Every time they demonstrated their superior technology, we were mapping their systems. Back on the Hegemony flagship, alarm sirens suddenly blared. Both scout ships have gone dark, Tay reported, his voice tense. Same location, same pattern. Energy spike, then nothing. Day's face showed shock for the first time. Impossible. 3 ships? These humans have barely reached their own moon. Sir, June said quietly, I think we may have seriously miscalculated. Look at this. She displayed a historical document she had discovered in the human network, a military assessment of potential alien contact scenarios dating back over 50 years. The document outlined defensive strategies against technologically superior invaders. They've been preparing for our arrival for generations, she explained. Not just in their fiction, but in actual military planning. Day began pacing. But they showed no signs of advanced defensive capability during our scans. Because they deliberately concealed them, Tay realized. Their apparent disunity, their seemingly primitive military bases, it may all be misdirection. Admiral, an officer interrupted from the doorway. Representative Han reports that the human delegates have abruptly cancelled today's resource negotiation meeting. They're requesting a security conference instead. Day exchanged worried glances with his officers. They know that we know. In the White House Situation Room, President Minji sat at the head of the table, reviewing the reports from Nevada. The alien vessels have been secured intact, with minimal damage to their systems, General Kwan reported. Their crew members are unharmed and contained. Minji nodded. And our global defensive grid? Fully operational and undetected by the aliens, another officer confirmed. All major cities and installations are protected by the SHIELD network. Then it's time, Minji said, standing. We've learned what we needed about their capabilities. Now we show them a small fraction of ours. Prepare the demonstration force. Let's show these visitors that humanity is not as harmless as they thought. She turned to her communications director. Schedule the emergency meeting with Representative Han. Tell him we need to discuss a serious diplomatic incident involving their missing scout ships. As night fell over Earth, both sides prepared for a very different kind of meeting than either had initially planned. The hegemony's easy conquest had become something far more complicated, a confrontation with a species that had spent centuries preparing for this very moment. Representative Han entered the emergency meeting room with forced composure. The missing scout ships weighed heavily on his mind as he faced the human delegation across the polished table. President Minji sat directly opposite him, flanked by General Kwan and Dr. Lee. The atmosphere had changed dramatically from previous meetings, no refreshments, no pleasantries. We appreciate your prompt response to our request, Minji began, her voice calm but firm. We have matters of grave concern to discuss. Han nodded stiffly. Indeed. We seem to have lost contact with several of our vessels. Perhaps you might have information about this unfortunate situation? Minji's expression remained neutral. We do. She nodded to Dr. Lee, who pressed a button on his tablet. The wall screen activated, showing 3 hegemony scout ships housed in a massive underground facility. Your vessels entered restricted Earth airspace, General Kwan stated. They were intercepted according to our defense protocols. Han's eyes widened slightly, the only break in his diplomatic mask. I see. A misunderstanding, surely. Our ships were merely conducting standard atmospheric surveys. Over a military installation? Kwan asked. With active scanning technology? Han's mind raced. How had these primitives captured advanced hegemony vessels? Their technology should be centuries behind such capabilities. We request the immediate return of our property and personnel, Han said firmly. Of course, Minji replied. Once we've reached a new understanding about the nature of our relationship moving forward. Back on the flagship, Admiral Day watched the meeting through Han's concealed camera feed. His fists clenched as he turned to his officers. "Prepare the main battle group," he ordered. "Move all ships into strike position. If they want to see our true power, we'll oblige them." Science Officer June stepped forward hesitantly. "Admiral, if I may, I believe caution is warranted. We still don't understand how they neutralized our scout ships." "Irrelevant," Day snapped. "Our main fleet vessels have significantly more advanced defenses. These humans have simply been lucky." The massive hegemony warships began moving from their holding positions behind Earth's moon, forming a battle formation above the planet. Their sudden appearance was instantly detected by Earth's monitoring systems. In the meeting room, an aide whispered urgently to General Quan, who then passed a note to President Minji. She read it without changing her expression. "It seems your fleet is taking aggressive positions in our orbit," she remarked calmly to Han. "That's unfortunate timing during peace talks." Han maintained his composure. "A standard repositioning exercise. Nothing concerning." Minji nodded to Dr. Lee, who activated his communication device. "Initiate Protocol Omega." Across the planet, hidden installations hummed to life. In space, satellites that had appeared to be ordinary communications relays suddenly oriented toward the hegemony fleet. On the flagship's bridge, alarms blared. "Admiral," the tactical officer shouted. "Multiple energy signatures activating around the planet. Defensive posture." Day ordered. "Shields at maximum." Before the hegemony ships could fully power their shields, a network of energy beams connected the Earth satellites, creating a web of light that surrounded the planet. The hegemony scanners suddenly went blind, unable to penetrate the energy field. "What is this?" Day demanded. "How do they have planetary shield technology?" Officer June worked frantically at her console. "It's not like our shields. It's actually interfering with our systems on a quantum level. Our targeting systems can't function." In the meeting room, Minji's communicator beeped once. She smiled slightly. "Representative Han, I believe we should discuss terms for a more equal relationship between our civilizations." Han's translator almost failed to catch her words as he processed what was happening. You've been concealing your true technological capabilities." "As you concealed your true intentions," Minji replied. "We've known about your resource extraction plans from the beginning. The hegemony's pattern is well established across your conquered worlds." Han's composure finally broke. "How could you possibly know that?" Dr. Lee leaned forward. "We've been listening to your communications since your ships entered our solar system. Your encryption was difficult but not impossible to break." Outside the building, the sky darkened as thousands of small objects rose from hidden silos around the planet. They weren't missiles but advanced drones, each carrying technology reverse-engineered from studying the hegemony's own systems. On the flagship, Day watched in disbelief as his tactical display showed the swarm approaching. "Impossible," he whispered. "They can't have this level of technology." "Sir," Officer June said quietly, "I believe we've made a critical error in our assessment of this species." The drones surrounded the hegemony fleet but didn't attack. Instead, they formed a secondary containment grid, effectively trapping the alien ships in position. In the meeting room, General Quan placed a document before Han. "This is our proposed treaty," Minji explained. "We're open to cultural exchange and even limited trade. But Earth will not be an extraction point for the hegemony." Han stared at the document, then at the humans across from him. In their eyes, he no longer saw the simple, harmless primitives the hegemony had expected to easily manipulate. Instead, he saw something far more dangerous, equals who had been several steps ahead all along. "I will convey your terms to Admiral Day," Han said finally. "Excellent," Minji replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "We look forward to a more honest relationship from this point forward." Admiral Day watched through the viewport as the treaty ceremony preparations continued on the neutral space station. The gleaming diplomatic hall, hastily converted from an Earth orbital platform, now hosted representatives from both species. 1 month had passed since the confrontation that changed everything. It's time, sir, Officer June said quietly beside him. Day straightened his uniform. I never expected to be signing surrender terms with a pre-FTL civilization. Not surrender, June corrected gently. A mutual defense and non-interference pact. The distinction feels academic, Day replied bitterly. They proceeded to the hall where President Minji and her delegation waited. The human security forces stood alert but not threatening. Their weapons, now known to be quite capable of damaging hegemony ships, were holstered. Admiral Day, Minji greeted him with a respectful nod. Thank you for agreeing to this public ceremony. Your terms were quite clear, Day responded stiffly. The Hegemony Council has authorized me to sign the treaty as written. They sat at the ceremonial table while cameras from both sides recorded the historic moment. Dr. Lee handed Day a pen, a human writing instrument that felt oddly primitive in his hand. Before we proceed, Day said, I must ask, how long have your people been preparing for our arrival? Minji exchanged glances with General Quan before answering. In some ways, for centuries. We've always looked to the stars with both hope and caution. But your technological level, Day began, was partially disguised, Dr. Lee finished. We maintained a public technology level while developing advanced systems in secret. We thought it wise to appear less threatening until we understood the intentions of any visitors. Day signed the document, the pen feeling awkward in his grip. A wise precaution, it seems. After Minji added her signature, both leaders stood and faced the cameras. The treaty was officially in effect. Later, in a private meeting room, the real conversations began. Admiral Day, now serving as the hegemony's official ambassador, sat with a smaller group of human leaders. You understand this changes the balance of power in this sector, Day said. The Hegemony Council is distressed by the development. We aren't interested in power beyond our own security, Minji assured him. We simply want to ensure Earth remains free. General Quan was more direct. But make no mistake, we are prepared to defend ourselves against any future aggression. Day nodded slowly. I've submitted a full report about human capabilities. The Council was skeptical until we shared the sensor data from our ships. What did you tell them about us? Dr. Lee asked curiously. That you are perhaps the most dangerous species we've encountered, Day admitted. Not because of your current technology, but because of how you think. Explain, Minji requested. Most species develop systematically, Day continued. They master one technology before moving to the next. You humans pursue multiple paths simultaneously. You prepare for threats before they materialize. You maintain appearances while developing hidden strengths. Dr. Lee smiled slightly. A survival strategy developed over thousands of years of human conflict. And it served you well, Day acknowledged. The hegemony never expected to find quantum shielding in targeted EMP weapons on a world that has barely visited its own moon. Officer June, who had remained quiet until now, spoke up. There's something else that makes humans different. When we reviewed your historical records more thoroughly, we found an unusual pattern. Your fiction, your imagined stories, they frequently feature scenarios where humans defeat superior alien forces. Science fiction, Dr. Lee nodded. A beloved genre. But it's more than entertainment, June continued. These stories served as thought experiments, preparation for possible futures. You've been mentally rehearsing this confrontation for generations. Imagination is our greatest strength, Minji said simply. As the meeting concluded, Day and June walked together along the station's observation deck, looking down at Earth gleaming below. The Council has ordered a full reassessment of 17 other developing worlds in our territory, Day said quietly. They fear we may have made similar miscalculations elsewhere. A wise precaution, June replied. Though I doubt we'll find another species quite like humans. What makes you so certain? Their adaptability, June explained. Most species build their civilizations to avoid danger. Humans build theirs expecting it. They thrive on challenges. From the other end of the deck, they watched as human and hegemony crew members cautiously interacted, the beginnings of genuine cultural exchange taking place. We came to study a primitive world, Day mused. Instead, we found teachers. 3 days later, as the Hegemony fleet prepared to depart Earth orbit, Admiral Day sent one final message to the Galactic Council. Recommendation: upgrade status of Sol system to protected independent territory. Revise standard contact protocols for all future missions. And most importantly, remember that a species may appear harmless until threatened. Humans, especially, have mastered this deception. They are peaceful by choice, not by nature, and that choice can change in an instant. The fleet's engines flared as they moved away from Earth, leaving behind a world that would never again be underestimated by those who traveled among the stars.